Hi, my name is Clinton with GrimmSpeed, and with the help of Chase, our lead engineer, I'm going to be walking you through the installation of the 02 to 07 WRX and STI and 04 to 08 FXT GD intake. The tools we'll need for this job are a 10mm, 12mm, and 13mm socket, at least a foot of extension to make our lives easier, a ratchet, a Phillips and flathead screwdriver, 3mm Allen wrench, 10mm box wrench, and a needle nose pliers. The first step is to remove the stock air box. Start by unclipping the throttle cable and coolant lines and moving them off to the side. Next, unclip the MAF sensor connection from the airbox and move it out of the way. Using a Phillips screwdriver, remove the two MAF screws and pull the sensor out. If you want to, now would be a good time to clean your mass airflow sensor using a MAF cleaner. Using a flathead screwdriver, loosen the two OEM hose clamps on the stock intake elbow. Once you have the clamps loose, you can pull one side off the turbo inlet and then the other side off the stock intake. Unclip the fasteners from your airbox and remove the top so you can see the filter. Remove the old filter and set it aside. Locate the two 12mm bolts that are holding the airbox into the engine bay. Using a 12mm socket with an extension, remove the two bolts and pull out the airbox. Now that the airbox is out of the way, we can remove the resonator. Use a 10mm socket to remove the bolt that holds the resonator in place. Push the resonator into the fender so you can remove it from under the car. From underneath the car, remove the two pop clips that will drop the rain guard and the hidden chassis bolt holding the resonator in, then pull it out. This may require some fiddling because the space inside the fender is so tight. Just take your time and be patient. Grab your new heat shield and bag of included rubber bulb. There are 3 different lengths of bulb included in your kit. Take the shortest length and use it for the round intake cutout. Start at the bottom and work your way around. Make sure you are using enough force so the bulb is seated correctly. Grab the second longest piece of bulb and apply it in the same manner to the back of the heat shield. The hardest part of installing the bulb can be when you hit the corners. Open the bulb with your fingers, making sure it is pressed all the way into the corner. Continue to follow the back side of the heat shield, pressing firmly until you reach the end. If your bulb ends up being too long, you can trim it with wire snips. Take the last piece of bulb, the longest piece, and install it on the top facing edge. Again, the most difficult part is going to be the corner. Spread the bulb apart with your fingers and firmly press it into the corner until it is seated correctly. Once it's seated correctly in the corner, fold it over and work your way down the other side. Continue to follow the edge until you reach the end. Trim if necessary. For the next step, grab your intake pipe and oiled filter. Loosen the clamp enough to slide the intake pipe into the hole. Do not push the pipe too far into the filter. Just over the weld is far enough. Tighten the clamp with a flathead and give it a tug to make sure it's secure. Insert the intake piping into the heat shield all the way until the MAF bracket goes through the hole. Using a 10mm socket, remove the grounding bolt with the washer and set aside. Some chassis may not have this grounding wire, but the hole should be there. If that's you, we have included a bolt for you to use. Take the whole intake assembly and carefully put it into place. Make sure all the mounting holes line up and the heat shield is seated correctly. Your kit comes with two new 13mm mounting bolts. Thread these in with your fingers to hold everything in place. When reinstalling the ground wire and bolt, make sure to do it in the correct order. The order should be chassis, washer, ground wire, heat shield, bolt. With everything in place, go back and securely tighten the 3 bolts. A little extra note, make sure your MAF harness isn't pinched between the chassis and the heat shield. Also, make sure that the two coolant lines are running over the intake piping. Grab the included silicone coupler in your kit and install it on the intake pipe. Slide the clamps to one side and push the coupler onto the turbo inlet. Slip the clamps back over the coupler and tighten them up. Insert your sensor into the MAF bracket and push it until it's seated. Use the two 3mm Allen head bolts included in your kit to secure it in place. We suggest that you use a lubricant on the O-ring to make sure the MAF is seated properly. Plug the MAF sensor harness into the MAF and tuck the cable. The OEM airbox has two coolant hose clips. Use a pair of pliers to pop them off the airbox. Take the clips and attach them using the two extra holes on the heat shield. Pop the coolant hoses into the clips and organize them neatly. If you don't like the way the coolant hoses are sitting, you can trim them to make the install a little cleaner. This is optional.